Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight archive. I'm Christian.
And I'm Jimmy. Today we are diving into chapters 16 and 17 of The Way of Kings. And as always, there's full spoilers ahead for all the published Stormlight archive books. So if you haven't read them all the way through, we'll see you later. But for everyone else, welcome back to the journey as we progress in this reread. Christian, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's a bit of a emotional moment, as you've seen. It's been my voice has been quivering as we lead up to this. No, it's not that bad, but it's the last time I'm doing any YouTube content in my old place. As of next week, I'll be moved into a new place, new setup, and a new beginning. So it's an exciting time. How have you been?
Well, first off, congratulations. Moving's always a big deal. But this one probably feels like a bit of a bigger deal for you, I would imagine. So congratulations, man. And good luck with moving. At least you don't have as many books as me, because whenever I moved into my house, I literally had half a day to move books. And I was like, why did I buy these? You're just sitting there staring at books like you're never going to read again. And you're like, why do I own this?
Yeah, I think each move makes you want to be a minimalist even more.
Yeah, right. I tried for many years to fit my life in a U-Haul. I said, if I can't fit into a small U-Haul, then it's too much. But unfortunately, as I've grown a little bit of roots in this area, I have started to accumulate stuff, which is the enemy of moving.
Yes, the infamous stuff. Yeah, I had crates and crates of books, though. I kind of surprised myself because after I read Stormlight, I was like, oh, fantasy. Yes, let's read everything. I have the first book of like every big fantasy series. Haven't read most of them, but I have.
Book one guy. You're a book one guy.
Yeah, I'm a book one kind of. I'm a chapter one kind of guy. You know, just show me the first chapter. I have, because all of them I read probably the first chapter: The Poppy War, Gardens of the Moon, Assassin's Apprentice, all these big books, and I'm just like, oh yeah, pretty good. What's Kaladin up to?
You listed two of my favorites there, and then the Poppy War.
Oh man,
I very much. If there was another fantasy series I could get you to read book one of, I think it would probably be the Greenbone Saga. I think you would like a lot of what Fonda Lee does in the Greenbone Saga, and I think she has a really cool magic system that like borders on science. So that'll be my new project, is to try to get you to start chapter one of that. And it'll be, maybe I'll send it to you for a housewarming gift. That'd be a good idea.
Oh, is that Jade City?
Jade City. One? Yes. Yeah. I don't think it's the best series of all time. I think I'm a little bit more reserved on the hype. But I still think that there's a lot of really good stuff in it. And specifically for you, I think there's stuff that you would have fun picking apart, and a good cast of characters for sure.
Yeah. I've actually had that recommendation a few times, and by all accounts, everything I've heard sounds really good. Maybe I think as I talk about books more and more, I'm starting to figure out what makes me tick. I think I like being part of something that's ongoing. Some people wait for series to end, but for me, that's almost like it kind of pushes me away. I'm like, oh, I want to be part of the journey. I want to be part of the fandom, you know, but it's over.
I'll tell you one thing. I think being a part of an ongoing Sanderson series is a much different thing than being a part of a series from another author, any of the other authors. And it doesn't have to do with his pace, actually. I think it has to do with the fandom and the community around Brandon Sanderson's works, specifically the Coppermine. So when a new book comes out, you don't have to reread it. You can go get really good summaries, whether it's on your channel, Coppermine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's this big need. Whereas whenever, some other random fantasy author that I love releases, like Daniel Abraham releases book 2 in a series, I'm like, nobody has a recap for book 1. I got to read the whole thing again.
I wonder what it is, though. Is it just Sanderson's huge popularity that's brought into? Is it that simple?
Yes.
There's no secret sauce, Jimmy. Come on.
Well, I think part of the connected universe drives that, because people are trying to make the connections. So that certainly has something to do with it. But just vast amounts of popularity leads to people creating wikis. The interesting thing is a lot of really old sci-fi that people love that you would not think, it doesn't have a TV adaptation or anything. There's wikis for a lot of older sci-fi, and it is really handy. Whenever you start jumping into those series, and then you revisit them a couple months later, and there's actually resources to kind of update you. So I do enjoy being a part of ongoing series. when it's Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, that's fair. I've got a good question for you, Jimmy. What's the first wiki you remember visiting?
Oh, Song of Ice Fire.
Really? In your whole life?
This in my whole life. Wiki? Yes. I was not I didn't, even this might shock you. I didn't have a ton of friends when I was young. So whenever I was reading other things, it was very much to get away from people. I didn't want to talk to people about books. Whereas now in my adulthood and I've adjusted, I would like to socialize about books. But for me, I never really wanted to go on the internet to talk about or anything.
Wow. All right. I'm going to up the loser status one more level. I remember my first wiki was a RuneScape wiki. Oh yeah, baby. Oh,
if we're talking about you know what?
Yeah, general wikis.
General wiki.
Yeah,
Dragon Ball Z. Because Dragon Ball GT came out, and I had people like it hadn't came out in America yet, so people were going online and telling people what's happening in Dragon Ball GT, and I remember being like, "There is no way this is real."
Yeah,
like I was like 12, being like, "This is not canon. This isn't true." And then it came out. And everybody got it. Everyone goes, "Oh my God, they really did do all that stuff. That's terrible." And to this day, I have kind of an affinity for Dragon Ball GT, even though it's hated by most of the fandom, just because when I was watching, it was surreal that some dude on a GeoCities page from 1999 had actually told us everything that was going to happen. And there was a new Super Saiyan form, and now none of it's canon. So it's fun.
Oh, really?
GT's
canned all of it?
It's gone. Oh. Yeah. Super is the true sequel to Dragon Ball Z, which is, by the way, much better than Dragon Ball GT.
What a different era, man, where you could like hear from across the sea what's happening in media and you have to wait. Now it's just like immediate, maybe 30 minutes later from it being originally aired, wherever you've got all the info.
Just wait in 20 years, whenever there's a metaverse for Stormlight where you can like hang out in Roshar and chill with the Kremlings, like people are gonna be like, can you believe people used to get on Zoom and make podcasts? What bunch of losers. We'll be the old guys then.
Oh man, I'll be chilling with my Kremlin crew. I'm gonna start the hive mind.
Hive mind, I like that.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of a world. I mean, technology, before you know it, you've adapted. Like if you think back to your life as a teenager, you realize how different things are now, technology wise. And it's like it's only until you think about it do you notice. I can't imagine a smooth transition to being in the Stormlight metaverse.
It just happens.
It just happens one day. It just
happens, bro. Sometimes favorable science gets a little out of hand, and the next thing you know, you have floating platforms in book 4. You know, it's just.
Hey, man. I can see it because then I can finally have my dream of the Kremlings with the men in black suits and sunnies. That's my ultimate. Yeah, there we go. But get out of my neighborhood.
I embrace the future, and I embrace all forms of immersion for fantasy series, especially Stormlight. Speaking of Stormlight, our weekly update from Sanderson. I'm going to get this out of the way because it's not too long, and then we got a weekly poll we want to talk about. But the Sanderson update is simple, folks. 75% of the way done for Stormlight 5. He said he's going to be taking a bit of a pause because he has to get his beta readers involved now, but he is on pace. He said technically he's like 300 or 500 words behind, but like he'll make that up. It's not that big of a deal. But that is how particular he is about his.
He seriously said that 300 words.
It was like 300 or 500 words. He said technically I'm like 510 words, but we'll be on schedule. So the man is dedicated, to say the least.
Wow.
But
he couldn't even bust out another paragraph.
I know. No,
man, that is so exciting, man. Because like, I'm fairly sure if my memory serves correctly. I mean, Book 5 has been delayed, right?
Yes, technically from the very first time we ever like heard when it would be released, and I think it was supposed to be this year, and now it's next year. I think that was
something like that, or it's like it was next year earlier, but now it's next year later in the piece. Whenever it is, I don't mind as long as we get it. And where's my beta copy? That's my question. Where I'm like, sign me up.
I honestly think it just comes down to you having a co-host here that's just not as invested. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, we got some controversial comments this week. Jimmy's coughing it, and we need some support for Jimmy in the comments as my quote unquote. My quote unquote sidekick.
Well, hey, shout out to everyone that's been listening. Our numbers are growing massively. It's a shock to us just how fast this rocket ship has taken off. So we genuinely do appreciate everyone taking times out of their week to tune into the podcast, whether it be on YouTube or through podcast platforms. We're really taken back by not just the listens and the plays and the views, but also the engagement when people reach out. And we do welcome feedback. We always welcome feedback. The show is. We're not new to making content, but we are new to this show, and we always try to do just a little bit better each time we come on here. So big shout out to everyone for listening and supporting the pod.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's a learning process with us with the podcast, especially me. I've never podcasted in my life, and we got in trouble last week. We talked about a joke. What joke, mate? We never mentioned the wit joke. Jimmy's going to read it. I can't bear to do it to myself.
If you ever need to know that I'm invested in this project is the fact that I wake up at like 6 a.m. when I don't have to and do these things. But because of that, last week I was really out of it, unfortunately. And I forgot to mention the joke. So many people commented, what was the joke? What was the joke? And I thought about never saying it and just making it a running gag, but we decided that would just be mean-spirited. So the joke last week in our chapters that we mentioned that we did not like was as follows. It's Wit talking to Sadeas, and the quote is, "I point out truths when I see them, Bright Lord Sadeas. Each man has his place. Mine is to make insults. Yours is to be in sluts." So it's a play on the word insults and insluts, which, to be honest, one, I don't think it's very funny. Not because I think it's offensive or anything, but I don't find it to be all that clever, which maybe it's meant to be a little bit more brash. But everything else Wit is delivering, even to Sadeas, like in these chapters, feels more interesting or, clever. And also it's a little jarring.
Yeah, it just kind of, it's like whenever people get jarred that Lift is saying everything's awesome all the time. I get how that kind of takes you out of a story that's written in a kind of a different way. Or like, when someone's riffing, they're doing jokes, everyone's laughing, and then they just do one that's just like, it just didn't land.
Yeah, and that's fine, right?
He just had that moment.
I love Wit. It's just, this isn't it. It doesn't move me. And I'll be honest, even with Lift saying awesome doesn't actually bother me that much.
Really?
That is one complaint about Lift. People are like, I mean, yes, I do get tired of hearing it, but it has never taken me out of the story to go, oh, awesome's not something someone would say in Roshar. I'm like, well, maybe. We don't see a lot of kids' perspectives. So it's really hard to say what the kids are saying. But when it comes to in sluts, do we ever hear this word again in the Stormlight? I highly doubt it.
Just because you guys don't get the visuals, just Jimmy's just holding a pen, getting real analytical when it comes to in sluts. Well, I just don't know. Like,
the origin of the word. So that was
just a bad joke, man. That's it. Yeah. Didn't land for us.
Yes, and I saw on Reddit some people said it's their favorite joke in all of Stormlight Archive. So you know what? We reserve the right to be wrong about these things.
Hey, man, everyone's different. Just didn't tickle our fancy.
Me and Christian both read that separately, came back, and then, we both said, hey, did you have anything you didn't like? And we're both like, yeah, this one joke. And I'm like,
how about that joke?
And then we both were like, okay. So we thought it was worth sharing, but apparently we forgot last week. So we apologize. And I hope people are happy now that they know what the joke was.
There you go, Jimmy. That's your apology video. Your dreams have come true. Here we go, guys. Weekly poll. Which character flashback sequence is your favorite so far in the Stormlight Archive? Kaladin, Shallan, Dalinar, Eshonai, and Venli. Dalinar. 62% of the 3.5, almost 1,000 votes. How do you feel about this poll this week, Jimmy?
All right, so this is the most dominant win we've had in the polls.
Oh yeah,
they've all been pretty lopsided with someone taking around, half. Actually, you know what? There was one poll that did better. The tuck back eyebrows.
Oh really?
Had 68%.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, so that was the most commanding. But this is the first one with characters that has been this lopsided, which is just a runaway victory for Dalinar. I'm not shocked by this because I would have also said that Dalinar was my favorite when I finished the books. However, looking at this poll, the one that I'm most excited to read about is actually Shallan. because of the running things that we've been talking about with her family and whatnot. And I'm just kind of shocked. I'm actually just genuinely shocked that Dalinar was 62%.
Yeah, I knew he would win, but not by this margin. I thought it would be like him and Shallan actually in the top two. I didn't expect Shallan to be so low. Eshonai. So these are the results: Dalinar 62, Kaladin 22, Shallan 12, and Eshonai and Venli a measly 4. I thought that was just brutal. I disagree.
I didn't like the Eshonai and Venli flashbacks personally,
mate.
but I'm excited to reread it because whenever I don't like something, I'm always open to. I shouldn't say not like. I didn't enjoy it as much as the others.
Yeah.
I'm always willing to change my mind. I'm always willing to revisit it with a different lens, with a different experience. And a lot of times I have found on rereads of things that I feel differently, and I did miss stuff. So I understand the Eshonai Venli percentage,
yeah,
but I hope I turn around on it.
Yeah. Look, as someone who's notoriously bad at picking favorites, I'm going to stick with the trend because I can defend all of these and say why I love all of them for different reasons, right? Kaladin's one is just, I read it at the perfect time in my life. I was in such a hole. And especially when we see it now, the beginnings of his depression as like a 12-year-old, all of these things, as a character, it's done so well and the payoff is beautiful. In the same vein, though, Dalinar has his own journey and path, and the payoff is exceptional at the end of Oathbringer as well. And a lot of the comments on the poll this week were talking about huge Dalinar moments in the flashbacks, even just the cool things of him taking the assassin's knife, then eating his dinner with it, all these cool, just amazing hype moments. But him facing down a literal god, as someone said, it's like, how do you top that, right?
Very difficult to top. Very, very difficult. And that's why I don't really have a problem with them winning it. I thought Shallan and Kaladin would be a lot more competitive. I really did.
Yeah,
I in fact kind of thought Shallan would actually win this.
Dude.
But it wasn't that
so
close.
Many revelations, dude. So many revelations in Shallan's chapters, and a great examination of just growing up in a traumatic household, to say the least, with Shallan. Wow. And the twist of her killing not one, but both her parents.
Yes.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild to reread those. And look, I'm going to tell you something. Eshonai and Venli, they're freaking great flashbacks. I know it's not what everyone wanted. And I know they're placed awkwardly. And sometimes you're like, oh, I just want to read the next part. And we're going back to a flashback. That's where I'd criticize it. How it's placed throughout Rhythm of War is kind of annoying sometimes. But if you just read, I love like the whole angle of two societies going developing at different paces and then running into each other. I freaking adore that stuff. And I love the singer culture and the Parshendi culture. I love seeing it. I found it really interesting just to see, as Roshar is, how does this world actually work without these bloody humans ruining everything?
I think going into it on a reread, I'm going to enjoy it a lot more. My biggest problem is always that I liked Eshonai, and I don't. Venli's my least favorite character, possibly. She's up there, but I like Eshonai. I actually very much enjoy Eshonai, and I think some people wish that Eshonai would have survived.
Oh man, they're very tragic characters. They bring the downfall of their race unintentionally. They're just like two bright-eyed girls trying to do their best, and it really goes south.
Yeah, and another thing about reread is that we generally on a first read of an epic fantasy series, you want to know what happens.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily always think about the why. Yeah. And I do believe that on the reread, it gives you a lot more time to digest and marinate in like the why and the how. So I find that rereads usually lend myself to enjoying books more. Famously, A Feast for Crows is everyone's least favorite Song of Ice and Fire book. But most people who reread the series find a lot of value in it after they're done trying to just find out what happens next. So I have high hopes for Eshonai and Venli. In book 4 in general, I think, whenever we get to it.
Yeah. I mean, Sanderson has talked about some regrets of not doing the Parshendi flashbacks earlier. There was talk about doing them in the second book. Because now, for some people, I guess it just feels too late to care. You
I
know?
felt I not to care, but I did feel like it was a little late. But
Yeah.
I can't. Hindsight's 2020. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Change Words of Radiance, which in my opinion is the better book of the series. Like I just don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
like the tightest book.
it's
I
so good.
I wouldn't change a thing,
And
you
I don't
know?
think you can change Oathbringer much either, just because Oathbringer, while it has like there's some odd things, and not necessarily bad, but odd things about Oathbringer. It's like you can't add anything to it. You can't really subtract much from it. So I don't know. I don't know where it fits in. I think he did it at the right time. He might feel like that's a regret, but I have a feeling that when everything is all said and done, we'll look back and be like, it's fine.
Yeah, I like a book with some quirks, you know? Like, not
Yeah.
to the point of like Wheel of Time, hey, these next 4 books are going to be boring. You know, that it's basically what people always tell you. But I like a book, okay, maybe the pacing's a bit off and it's like really slow, but then it's like too fast at the end. Like, okay, let's play around with things a bit. And maybe Oathbringer is a bit like that. It is like slow, but then the ending is like exhaustively insane.
And I'm
And I wouldn't
famous.
change that.
Yeah, I wouldn't change Oathbringer either. And I'm famous for liking slow, boring books. So I probably have more of a tolerance than most people for it. A lot of my favorite books are considered boring books by the masses. So I don't know. I wonder when we finish, if we retook this poll with people who are listening along, if this will change as we kind of pull things out from the flashbacks and maybe recontextualize some of it.
Maybe. And I wonder where Zeth will rank by the time the next book's out.
I think he might be the best. I have a feeling it's going to be the best.
I hope so, man. I just love that character. And I feel like we've only got, like, it's like the tip of the iceberg with Zeth. Really. There's so much to explore. But I think... go for it.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I think Dalinar's just the entire flashback and him as a character in Oathbringer might be the best thing Sanderson's written. Don't you think?
I think as far as like masses of people appreciating it, yes. I mean, it's by far, and a lot of people's favorite character is Dalinar. So it will be very hard to top that. There's also the thing with Zeth that he is so cool. And part of that is the distance that we have from him. And when you start to zoom in and you start to give answers, you do face the challenge of losing some of the mystique, some of the mystery, some of the allure. Now, do I think that Sanderson's talented enough to carry this on and still make him amazing, even maybe in a new way? Yes, I do. So I'm not terribly worried about it, but it is a risk to go get inside someone's story and head that we've seen him, we've had POVs, but it's always been a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah. He's giving us more and more each book of him, but everything changes once you get a flashback perspective. Once you go into the childhood, man, that's where it all is.
You'll never see those characters the same again. Think about Dalinar. You know, we see him in a totally different light after.
Oh my god! Because you're just so on side with Dalinar, and then like each chapter of his flashbacks just tests you more and more. And it's just an ongoing theme in Stormlight. People can get better, people can change, and I love that. I love that as a theme.
I mean, we even see that here in our flashback chapter we get in the reread. So probably a good time to jump into chapter 16, which is titled Cocoons. And yes, this is 7.5 years ago, and we are with Kaladin. And we can kind of summarize this chapter. Kaladin is talking to his friend Laral. Is that how you say it? Laral? How do you say it?
Ooh, Laral.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Laral is hearing about Kaladin's father's plans to, make him into a surgeon, and Laral is encouraging him to become a soldier. She says, go get that shard plate, get the blade for yourself. And then we see some stuff with Tien giving Kaladin a rock, which he's trying to make Kaladin feel better, which is very, very sweet. And then Kaladin and Tien go hunting for Lurgs, which I'll come back to in a bit. But essentially we go through this whole chapter and we see Kaladin kind of wrestle with his future. And it all kind of comes down to this fight between him and Jost. And Jost is another boy that claims that his father was cheated out of a shard blade, but Kaladin doesn't necessarily agree with this based on the location
facts
that they were
logic.
at. Yes, facts and logic destroys it. And then they get into a fight. Kaladin does pretty well with the quarterstaff, but it eventually gets kind of toppled. And then at the end, we see that Bright Lord, Wistio, thank you.
Yeah.
Wistio is dead, and this is going to be a big deal in Hearthstone. But the reason why I think that this kind of relates to what we're talking about is everything that we've seen from Kaladin to this point has painted Bright Eyes in a negative light. We see in this flashback that was not always the case. We actually see that he seems to be pretty good friends with some Bright Eyes. So now we have to start to question, well, what happened? What changed? Which we see that this is very much the catalyst for that change, having the hindsight of read the first 4 books. So I just think that this is a really important chapter for who Kaladin is in the present day and the biases that he holds, while also seeing that Kaladin was a much different person back then.
Yeah, and notoriously not great with the ladies. Sorry, Kaladin. He's not picking up what she's putting down. He's like, she's acting weird, but I'm not. Why? Why is she acting weird? I'm like, come on, Kaladin.
I wish Perrin was here to talk.
yeah, he's so good with. Oh my god, took me right back. Oh man. Well, yes, all of that stuff. But how about Magic Tien? Did you get any of that?
Give it to me. You said you had some spice you were cooking up.
I'm like, Jimmy, I got some spicy content this week. But no, to go to your point, I found it, yes, a fantastic examination of the pre and post Light Eyes trauma Kaladin. Also getting the very beginning, the first ripples of his sort of depression, I suppose. As a 12-year-old, he's just like, I can get into these lulls and I don't know why and I don't understand. And even Laral comments on it. Right. And speaking of Laral, I love all these symmetrical names in Stormlight. I find them so satisfying because they're doing it part of their Voron culture. So like a lot of them are anagrams. And fun fact, H is like a placehold letter. So if you take out the H of most names, for example, if you take out the H of Shallan, it's almost symmetrical. So fun little things. Anyway, Tien, right? So I was watching him. I'm like, okay, is this just a brother making another brother feel really nice because he's cute and he's sweet and he's bringing him rocks? Who wouldn't enjoy that? But this is Sanderson we're talking about, you know. Why? Oh, he inexplicably feels better. Oh, I'm like, what is this? What's going on, right? I've always had a bit of an inkling about Tien. If you notice, when people bond spren, a lot of their family members also become radiants. We've got all the Colons.
That's right.
I'm trying to think of who else. I should have came with more examples.
The Colons.
The Colons, and you know, all the rest.
We believe Shallan's family has a lot going on.
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure Hilarion was wanting. Yeah. So anyway, Tien, right? I'm like, okay, I'm sure there's something going up with him. I don't know if the rocks are magical. I was going to pull up the description of Zeth's Oathstone to compare to this rock. This is where I was going. No similarities that I can tell. Anyway, as you do, you start Googling a few things. And I'm not the first, of course. This fandom is the best. And many people have asked Sanderson about what's going on with Tien, what's with these rocks. And I learned a few things. I'm going to pull up a few quotes here. So, break the ice. Tien was becoming a light weaver. This was all happening at around the same time as Kaladin, I suppose. Wow. So far that he had sworn one oath, at least. That's what Sanderson said. Whilst he was alive, he had sworn one oath. And then the next question is, okay, Tien was killed. Where's his spren? And every time someone asks that to Sanderson, Sanderson does the classic read and find out comment.
Oh, no.
So, oh, baby. Now we've got a mystery on our hands, right? And then I'm like, okay, so why does Kaladin always feel better around Tien? And he's like, look, okay, yes, it's the little brother thing. Tien's so lovable. Like, who wouldn't, right? But he said it's also a light weaver thing. And these light weavers have a bit of an effect on people. They bring out the best in the people around them, which we see a lot with Shallan. Shallan, like, she brings the best out of Gaz. Who could do that? So Also, to corroborate, there's a quote in Words of Radiance where Kaladin's like, to Shallan, you remind me of someone. Who's he talking about? He's talking about Tien, because he's feeling the same way Tien made him feel around Shallan. All these nice little touches. And I'm almost done, guys. Bear with me. And the whole rock thing, they're just rocks. They're just rocks. But because he's a light weaver, he sees like all the colors and all this cool stuff. And Sanderson also hinted that we see him doing some light weavery things in the first book. So I thought the little smiley face rock that he gives to Kaladin at the end may have been some light weaving, potentially.
Wow. I mean, this is the good stuff. This is the stuff that I love, especially coming back to it on a reread, because to me it was just like Tien's just the dead little brother. Like, yeah. He's the Georgie if anyone's ever read or watched It.
Yeah.
He's Georgie. I guess spoilers for It if you didn't read it.
If you didn't read the first page.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. I will tell you what I took from it.
Okay.
I thought, okay. So first off, we see Kaladin take Rock's position in the next chapter. So I was thinking, okay, Rock and a rock. And then we're talking about a lot about what's going on in Hearthstone. And Hearth and a stone and a rock. And then I started thinking about Hearthstone, and I was like, why is it named Hearthstone? Is Sanderson just a really big fan of Blizzard games? I'm sure he is. But I also was just thinking about, like, what is a Hearthstone? Which we know that it is a stone that is a part or makes up a hearth, which a hearth is the floor of a fireplace. It is the lowest section of a furnace. It's also just considered home. People refer to it as long for comforts of hearth and home, a vital or creative center. And then I started thinking, if Tien is magical indeed, and Kaladin seems so special, is there more significance to this location that we haven't stumbled onto yet?
I'm gonna take that. You've thrown up the ball. I'm gonna slam dunk it right now.
Let's go.
So somebody who's an absolute legend, these people, their questions are great. Somebody asked, would the Stormfather also call Tien and Oridon, Kaladin's youngest brother, son of Tanavast, right? Because you know how the Stormfather calls Kaladin that? And we're like, oh, was he like somehow related to Honor and all this stuff? So this guy's like, how about the rest of the boys? And Sanderson says, I see what you're hunting here. I'm going to say Raffo. Don't read too much into that, Raffo. No, I'm going to anyway. Sorry, Sando. Because the answer is actually, it depends. And that's why I'm Raffoing it. It depends. What does it depend on?
What if Tien was Honor? And when Kaladin says Honor is dead, he means Tien.
Oh, Jimmy's gone all the way.
Yeah, that's way off the rails.
Gone all the way.
Why does it depend?
Yeah, because he's only ever called Kaladin that. Why would it depend if he calls the other boys that? Depends on what? I don't know. This feels like I'm just going with the significance of like there's something with this family, potentially also Hearthstone. Like, why is this location so where they're from? I don't know.
Well, what about this? What if Tien was, there's something more. Let's just say there's something more about Tien in general, which is obvious, but like even beyond that, and maybe Tien's passing that gets passed to Kaladin somehow.
Ooh, okay.
So it would depend on if Tien was alive.
Ooh.
And hadn't already met Kaladin. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's something there that we don't quite yet understand how this all works.
Yeah, right. Or if Kaladin dies, he'd call his youngest brother, like the baby brother, that thing. Is it something in the family line that is the son of Tanavast or something?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That felt like and this is a recent question. This was December last year. So I don't know, man. I think there's definitely more to Tien, as in more relevance to him in the story. We had that weird moment where they were able to speak at the end of Rhythm of War.
Oh my.
I mean, that, and then like something that Tien made, like a little toy horse or something, like actually is real, and Kaladin has it now from that experience. So, oh my god,
we're seeing
dude.
Tien again.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Do you think it has to do anything with Lurgs?
No. Sorry,
Listen here. All right.
Jimmy, I've got to rein you in,
They're
buddy.
amphibians and they are fist-sized. Their skin is brown and green and appears slick. This slickness is likely due to mucus that they secrete. A Lurg moves by jumping quickly from place to place, leaving spots of mucus behind it. It is able to cling to rocks using its 6 legs, at least 2 of which have tiny hands, which is very weird. A Lurg's eyes are located near the center of its back. So the reason why I thought that this was really interesting. So the times where we hear about Lurgs in these series, obviously Kaladin and Tien enjoyed playing with Lurgs while they were growing up in Hearthstone, and Tien was particularly fascinated by them.
Yeah.
I think that why is Tien so obsessed with these things is it has to do something with his light weaving.
Okay.
And Kaladin and Syl were hiking to Hearthstone. In the wake of the Everstorm, Syl spotted a Lurg. She was entertained by it and briefly changed form to imitate it. Okay. And when Kaladin is fighting Leshwi outside of Hearthstone, he used some cocooned, which is the chapter title of this chapter we just read, cocoon, Lurgs to distract her and gain a momentary advantage in the fight. And in Shadesmar, anticipation spren are described as Lurg-like.
Oh, he's on the copper mind.
They have bulbous bodies, long tongues, and squat legs. I'm just saying, Tien's interested in them. Syl, who is a spren, is also taking note of them. I don't know.
I like the most convincing part of that for me is the anticipation spren kind of looking like them. That's a fun little thing. But we do know that spren can imitate real life things. Just for the laughs.
That's true.
I do remember the Leshwi thing, and I do remember reading that and being a nerd and being like, "Oh, it's just like with Tien. What a callback." I don't know, man. I like Lurgs. I feel like a bit of a Lurg sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
eyes on the back of my head, mucus covered.
It is worth noting that anticipation sprinter of the size of like a child, like a human toddler. Oh, so there is a big discrepancy between them. And let's be honest, guys, I'm not onto anything, but I did go down a Lurg rabbit hole, and if I have to spend 20 minutes doing it, you have to listen to me talk about it for at least 3 minutes.
That's the way it goes. Yeah. I'm all about the you get really into the nature of Roshar. No, but the nature to Roshar stands out to you in a way that you actually run with it, where I'm just like, oh, that's kind of fun, and I move on. So it's good. You're keeping an eye on it.
Whenever Lurgs are the key to the
Lurgs and Vines,
it'll be the most listened to episode of Lost in Roshar.
Jimmy was right.
Lurgs are the key.
Oh man. Hey, but Loral's onto my theory. I'm just gonna back it up. Your brother Loral said, looking towards Tien, he changes you. Ooh, come on, mate. He changes. People are seeing it.
Magic.
With magic. No, but I think it is like very subtle. I think it is mostly the whole like mood changing thing is just a familial relationship. Even though Sando said it is some light weaving magic, I think he acknowledges it's mostly subtle. And the point, he said a big point was to show that Tien sees beauty in things that Kaladin doesn't.
And maybe cannot because of his depression, possibly. So,
yeah,
definitely a brotherly bond. We're going to keep eyes on Tien. I don't trust him now. So we're going to keep our peepers peeled, as we always do here on Lost in Roshar. And I am so curious what other evidence we can find that Tien is a magic boy.
Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to ask you, because I get very excited as well, making everything magical. I ruin all the character development. I'm like, that's magic. No way that could their emotions change naturally. But when Kaladin picks up the quarterstaff, something changed in that moment. Kaladin felt an energy as he held the weapon, an excitement that washed away his pain. He spun, smashing the staff into one of Jost's hands. And then it continues to say, Cal had never held a weapon before, never been in a fight any more dangerous than a wrestling match with Tien, but the length of wood felt right in his fingers. He was amazed by how wonderful the moment felt. Magic or just finding his calling? What do you think?
I think that he is Tavern. I think that this is a Wheel of Time crossover, and he is Cawthon from the Wheel of Time. Now,
stop it.
I can't lie to you. Every time I see quarterstaff, I just think of Matt, and I'm like, no, Kaladin, don't be Matt. So this, is obviously significant in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But what part of me does wonder this, and maybe you can give your opinion. There are things that people in this world or the Roshar can just pick up and be good at. Like a
Right.
child
Okay.
picks up a clarinet and blows into it, and people are like, "Oh, that's different than when the other children blew into it."
Mm.
So, is it just irony that Kaladin happens to pick up a weapon, which is the antithesis of what his father does, and he just happens to be really naturally gifted at combat and violence? Like maybe that actually is just an irony, and maybe you could even say a tragedy for this family
Mm.
because of the wedge that it drives between him and his father. Is there room for that, do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind it being just that. It doesn't have to be what I am pointing to, where it could be like some sort of,
I
you
think
know,
you're right, by the way.
you
I
think
actually think
so?
you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think there's something going on here, but I just
Mm.
wanted to take it like, well, what would be the logic, or the more like
Mm.
down to Roshar way of looking at it? See, I'm down to earth. I said down to Roshar.
Yeah, that's the quality I'm searching for on this show, mate. Well done. You survive another episode.
Thank God. Honey, we're
No.
good. No, we're fine. We'll be able to pay the mortgage.
Yeah, great. I'll transfer you the 5 cents we made last week, mate. Don't worry about it. No, but look, I am suspicious because I've got a whole. Even though he's playing with the chosen one trope with Kaladin and saying he's like the chosen one, but not really. I think there is a bit of chosen one energy. Don't you think?
I almost feel like we're introduced to Kaladin to be the chosen one, and then it's like maybe as the reader, our bias against someone who does suffer from something like depression, we almost say, well, they can't be the chosen one if they are.
Yeah, right.
And maybe Sanderson is going to flip that and turn it on its head in the back half of Stormlight. Or maybe Kaladin gets skewered in book 5 and we all like drop our jaws and Syl becomes an alcoholic. I don't know. I really don't know. but you bring up a good point, and whenever I said that in my review of Way of Kings way back in the day that he was a chosen one, I got a little pushback on that. But I do believe that the way he's presented in this book, before we see we see everything from the Radiance, that he is a chosen one, and then he becomes a little bit more of one of them, like just one of them.
Yeah.
Will he then ascend and become something more? I think so. I actually believe so.
Yeah, like I think he plays with the chosen one trope a lot. Like, is he not? Mm-hmm. And for a while there, it feels like, especially in Rhythm of War, it feels like, oh man, he's really not going for this because he's like taking time off and like starting group therapy.
Yeah, he went on a sabbatical.
Yeah, but like also think back to the end of Rhythm of War where he's like flying around shooting armor at kids and protecting them, and oh my god,
he's more than capable.
Yeah, like he's next level. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of coincidences and chosen one-esque moments with Kaladin that were meant like that. I think there's more to it.
Yes.
There's more to it.
Yes.
But regardless, if something magical is happening here, we may have spotted it. If not, it's still a cool moment where Kaladin's like him and his staff, you can't stop him. Once he's got that, you're done. You are done.
You're done, son.
Yeah, done, mate. I loved the descriptions of Hearthstone because in my head, I read Hearthstone. I'm like, oh, classic fantasy village. Mm-hmm. Where are the hobbits? But no, not at all.
Nope.
The slanted buildings and how they're, edged against the storm. And the whole other side is basically just full on glass that does not feel classic fantasy at all, right? It's a whole different image.
There's a totally different feeling in Stormlight. Yeah. And that's why we said, get lost in Roshar, and why I've been so adamant about wanting to explore more of it, because it's so different. At times almost feeling like, I don't know if sci-fi is the right word, but kind of a little bit.
Just otherworldly in a
it is
good way.
It's alien. It is alien.
Yeah. Did you ever play Myst way back in the day? That point and click game?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, Myst. It was like the biggest game in the 90s. Anyway, the second game to that, Riven, has like a weird aesthetic too, with odd buildings, but it's kind of like old and new all mixed together. Sometimes I get a little itch of that when I read Stormlight, just with the designs of something like Hearthstone, where it's just such a odd style of building to see in a fantasy book. But it makes perfect sense in this world, and they've got these huge craters missing because of their like break the storm. Yeah, it's very cool. Is it ringing a bell? Have you looked it up?
I do remember this. I don't know if I played it, but I remember it. And now I want to play it.
Oh, do it. They remastered it recently, so you can enjoy it in beautiful 2022 graphics. I think it was last year or the year before. So no longer point and click, it's first person, and you can walk around. I loved Myst as a kid. I wrote a little guidebook for it. That's the level I was at.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh man. Did anything I'm actually look as I go through the chapter now, I'm gonna read the description of this rock that Tien gives at the end, and we're gonna decide once and for all.
Okay.
The rocks Tien had given him were still in his pocket. He pulled them out, then took his canteen off his belt and washed them with water. The first one he'd been given showed the white swirls and strata. It appeared the other one had a hidden design too. It looked like a face, smiling at him, made of white bits in the rock. Cal smiled despite himself, though it quickly faded. A rock wasn't going to solve his problems. All right, Kaladin. All right. But still, a magical rock with a smiley face? I'll take it.
I mean, I'm in. I'm all in on the magical rock, which is really just a symbol to manifest rock interacting with Kaladin in the future. Tien can actually interact with timeline. No, I'm just dumb.
Oh, keep going. You see, you stopped way too early.
This is amazing.
Anything else in this chapter, mate?
No, but I am realizing that I'm kind of like the tabloid of the Cosmere. Like, you can't trust. Maybe 1% of what I say is true, but you should really just not take me serious at this point.
Yeah, Jimmy's selling like magazines. 10 reasons why Kaladin. I don't know what Kaladin had for breakfast. I don't know.
Oh, I love it.
A bloody red sunset looms above us. Shall we enter?
We shall in chapter 17. So this is where Kaladin is trying to get some of the medical supplies. And, we're talking about bandages, sewing materials, because he is starting to think about, well, what if a bloody red sunset is not the end of our bridge crew? What if we start trying to save them? And maybe if Dalinar's catchphrase in this book is unite them, maybe Kaladin should be save them. Yeah. Which is interesting because with those two missions combined, we end up getting an unlikely duo out of this book that end up changing the world that we know on Roshar. So very, very cool. We see him switch to the front position instead of the back, which is like a privileged position, and people do eat some arrows, but he surprisingly is not struck by them, just narrowly missing him. Thank goodness he switched rock positions, because I don't think we would be getting
so
horny or whatever in the later books. So this is very important. And then we obviously see the fact that he is going to start carrying the bridgemen back on the bridge, putting them off whenever the soldiers need to cross, but he's saving them, and he's able to bribe Gaz with some of his extra dun spheres that were infused just before.
But why are they done, Jimmy?
Ooh, what is this? How are those dun spheres being infused?
Oh my gosh, I know he's trying to tell us something. I can't quite follow.
2 and 2 together right now. I just how about this Kaladin guy?
Honestly, Kaladin, if you were a better surgeon, we could just be done with all this, honestly. I loved this chapter, man. I loved this chapter so much. I don't know, man. Anything Bridge 4. And I just love seeing him, the little wins that Kaladin gets with them, little touches. Like he was looking for who was alive or dead or lost, whatever, at the end. And Teft lists them by name. And I'm like, yeah, man, he's remembering names now too. Bet they didn't expect to do that. Like little things like that.
Yeah, so things that would probably not be recommended for a job that is has such high turnover, we will say, as being a bridge runner.
Yeah. I've got so much highlighted in this chapter.
Firstly,
I want to firstly, I highlighted a little bit sus old guy who's like, hey, you want to slip this into a lady's drink and she'll really like you? And Kaladin raised an eyebrow. I'm like, yeah, a bit sus, mate. a little bit sus.
Bill Cosby making a cameo.
It was just like, all right, old man. But like Kaladin says, probably just a placebo nonsense little thing. I quite liked his Pycelle moment where he's like, oh, you do surgery? Let me throw my cane away. What do you need?
Yeah.
That was
I
quite
like
a
that
nice
Pycelle moment. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like to me. So this was the first mention of the dull spheres. Kaladin brought out his 4 marks. He hesitated when he saw them, however. Only one was still glowing with its soft crystal light. The other 3 were dull, the bits of diamond barely visible at the center of the drops of glass. So not only did he use Stormlight to unintentionally murder his other bridgemen by blocking the arrows, he's been using them prior to this. I'm trying to remember what, maybe, I guess this confirms my thing of he was using it to enhance his strength, holding the plank of wood. Maybe?
I think I would say so.
Yeah.
Because it's such a tall task. And you don't have just all like small prisoners, right? Like you have people like Rock that are massive.
Yeah.
And they're struggling. So I do think that Kaladin is on PEDs. I think he's a bit.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, right?
Yeah.
So much as PEDs. It says they were glowing this morning, so I don't know if he was doing that this morning. I don't know about the timeline, but wherever, whatever, it's still him using it, which is cool details. What I noticed from Syl was when she was talking about humans and how we all act differently, and that's why there's so much discord and stuff. And she goes, you all act and think differently. Nothing else is like that. Animals act alike, and all spren are, in a sense, virtually the same individual.
Oh my God.
What? Excuse me, Syl? Care to elaborate? I mean, I think her thing, right, as an honor spren, I think they're all little pieces of honor, as far as I understand it. But I didn't know all spren were like a piece of one thing. Did you ever pick up on that?
Not only did I not know that, but that is like a jaw dropper moment.
Yeah.
Like that is so it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I feel dumb now. I feel very dumb. What a line by Syl.
Oh, Syl dropping knowledge on us.
Just dropping bangers.
One day she just figured out what death is. Now she's like, hey, what else do you want to know?
Now she's just, dropping Cosmere knowledge left and right. I mean, this is significant. And I think that is there for that very reason.
Yeah, look, it's so funny because I was one of the other episodes I was talking about if we ever see what's his name? Shallan's mate from the boat ship.
Oh, what he's in Dawnshard.
Right. Yeah. What's his name?
I'll find it out.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was saying like, oh, I wonder if we see him again. And everyone was like, yeah, like you. He's in Dawnshard. And then I got a comment on my Dawnshard video where I'm literally talking about it. So my point is, I'm thinking about the same thing now, thinking, did I know this fact about spren? And it's just been a few years and I've forgotten it. But I don't know. The line still stood out to me.
Tozbek is the captain.
No, it's not Tozbek.
No,
it's no. Tozbek. Tozbek's the first guy on the ship. It's the guy like wheeling her around and getting her deals on the books. Oh, how am I forgetting this? Yalb. It's Yalb.
Oh, Yalb.
Yalb is who we're talking about with his beautiful eyebrows. Oh,
I'm sorry, Yalb.
Shit. Oh, you're not sorry. You're not sorry.
I'm not at all. He's fictional. He doesn't exist.
He does not. He exists in the hearts. He lives on in the hearts of men, as they say. Did you like Kaladin calling the Parshmen lazy?
Yeah, I was like, man, some of this just misinformation we're getting from all these Rosharians, by the way, who aren't from Roshar. Just it's a little grating. It's a little distasteful whenever you have the whole context.
It's just thrown, like they're just throwaway lines. They're not like those lazy, stupid Parshmen that sit around and do nothing.
And then we were not on our first read. We're nodding our head like, yeah,
get a job. I felt it when I really felt it when Kaladin just screamed Tien as he's running into the arrows. I don't know, man, just hit just right after that flashback.
I mean, is there a chance that Tien was helping him from beyond the grave at any point?
Ooh.
I mean, if he could give him something that can manifest into a real thing.
I mean, that was also with the help of Dalinar doing some tricky magic stuff too. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
But it's just like that emotion thing of like, if you're about to face death, what do you scream? Unless you're in the Riders of Rohan and you scream death. Is it them that scream death in Lord of the Rings?
I can't remember.
They're like death as the massive charge. Sorry.
What would you yell? What would you yell if you were?
I would yell Kremlings as I went straight.
I would just yell, make sure to like and subscribe. Just get shot
down. But no, I thought that was a very nice touch. And then, for some reason, a group of Parshendi archers ahead lowered their bows. He saw their marbled skin, strange reddish or orange helms, or simple brown clothing. They appeared confused. I just imagined this from the Parshendi's point of view. They shoot all these arrows. There's like an invisible shield around Kaladin. Everyone else around him gets shot, and he keeps running at them. Yeah, of course they're confused. They're like, what is this magical dude doing?
And maybe it's also just kind of a commentary on that Kaladin doesn't see just how extraordinary that he is.
Yes. 100%. I wonder if you were to adapt this, right? We're left questioning. It's a bit more subtle in the books. Oh, the spheres are empty. We don't really... The only connection we can make is that Szeth takes in Stormlight, I guess, in the prologue.
Yeah.
But I guess you just straight up have to show this in the show or whatever it ends up being. Like, Kaladin just... The air has to warp around him to some degree. You'd have to show it. And then you're locked into him being different,
Did you love... I should just say, I love the way that the Parshmen are described. I almost feel like... I almost picture them like a Darth Maul almost from like... you know what I mean? Like way cooler. Way cooler. And obviously have different descriptions, but like that's where my brain starts because I'm not a super visual person, but I just want to see this on a screen so bad.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, I think if you merge Darth Maul with like the Na'vi from Avatar and then you've got the Parshendi, I think that's the ultimate, the combo, right? Because they're a bit taller, they got the carapace and stuff.
I like that.
Yeah. I'd love a Darth Maul cameo. Like in the lineup with all the archers, he's just there with a saber. That would be great.
I think shard blades are just cooler than lightsabers. Let's be honest.
Shard blades are cooler versions of lightsabers. Lock it in. That's our take.
They're much better.
Yeah. It's cool seeing which. This sounds bad, but it's cool seeing which Bridge 4 people get shot because a few of them become quite significant later. Namely, freaking Dabbid. Do you remember Dabbid at all?
I had not. In fact, had not remembered him.
Dude. Dabbid is like a very quiet member of Bridge 4 to the point that he doesn't speak. And then, he's always around doing a little bit. He's like carrying water. He never bonds a spren. Like he's just there. Right. And then in Rhythm of War, he's the guy who ends up helping Kaladin. And then you get a perspective from him and you realize like when he was getting born, the
umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck.
Yeah. It's all coming back to you. Right. And he's like a bit mentally behind. And
he was like mute. He was like 10 or something, right? Or like 5. He like didn't
something
speak
like
words.
that. Yeah. But he's like working with the sibling and helping out Kaladin. So it's like, wow. He could have just straight up died here, but thanks to Kaladin saving him, we get all of this. And Leighton is another big Bridge 4 member too, but Dabbid's like a guy who doesn't really get his moment until, 4 books later, which it's cool to see these moments. I didn't remember that Kaladin saved him.
So I just Googled it, and one thing I forgot, his mother died, causing his disorder to worsen. Dabbid then ended up at the War of Reckoning, washing clothes of a light eyes. The man's wife accused him of fathering her dark-eyed child in order to protect her lover, and Dabbid was assigned to a bridgeman to be a bridgeman in Sadeas's war camp as punishment. Talk about bad luck.
Honestly, I feel for him. And that's a person in the world who's just been forgotten. So it's really touching to read this scene with all that context that Kaladin
Yeah.
saved him, and he's got battle shock and everything, and I don't know, it's just emotional reading these things and seeing how Rock is helping too and Teft is helping. It was just like I was like the other members of Bridge 4 with bated breath watching Kaladin do his thing.
Yeah.
And did you spot the gorgeous, fresh, straight off the press death rattle? Did you spot it, mate?
No.
Oh, come on,
Let's go.
Jimmy.
Let's go.
Gadol spit up blood, coughing. They break the land itself, he hissed, eyes wild. They want it, but in their rage, they will destroy it. Like the jealous man burns his rich things rather than let them be taken away by his enemies. They come. And then he just dies.
So what do you make of that?
My mind immediately goes to, like, they break the land itself, they want it, but in their rage, they will destroy it. My mind goes, oh, humans coming to Roshar. Like a jealous man burns his rich things rather than let them be taken by his enemies. They come. The obvious answer is like humans colonizing, but I guess we've seen more future death rattle predictions than past ones, you know? So it could, like, breaking the land. We've got the thunderclasts and stuff that come and destroy Roshar and everything, but it feels bigger than that.
It does.
They want it, but in their rage, they will destroy it. Because that fits the whole human thing of they want the land to inhabit it. In their rage, they will destroy it.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, I feel very compelled to say it is that.
Yeah.
It also adds some irony to Kaladin's statements about the Parshmen earlier. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like it fits in the context of the chapter as well.
Uh-huh.
And it's all happening while the Parshmen are standing there fighting the bridge crew. You know what I mean? Like,
it kind of works.
It kind of works for me in this scene. I think you're right. I think it's whenever the humans came to Roshar.
Yeah, and now I wonder, right, because all these death rattles you have to be, within the vicinity of the unmade that's causing them. And, we're not really right next to Carbranth, are we? Where all the other death rattles have been happening. So either this unmade has a very large radius of effect, or it's moving. And now it's closer to Kaladin, which could be an interesting little thing.
It definitely could be.
Yeah. Let me see. What else do I have here? I suppose it's just that scene and then the carrying and bringing them back. Did you like Kaladin's strategy of standing up and facing down all the army men as they walked past instead of resting?
Yes. Showing, hey, I'm here. I'm not
this is my bridge, boy.
Yeah, very, again, the sports team, right? Whenever they lose the scrimmage and they just stay on the gym floor or something, it's very sports team-esque.
Yeah, it very much did feel like that. The ending was a bit of a gut punch. It was a bitter thought, but it had been a bitter day, a hopeful, bright beginning, and a bloody red sunset, just like every day. Oof.
Yes. Knowing that the challenges have not been conquered, which is a reoccurring theme for Kaladin. Like, what's the next battle? What's the next thing? And, not everything was fixed in Bridge 4 in this chapter, but a heck of a start.
Yeah. And it was just especially Rock. I think Rock, it's interesting. His words betray his actions because he's the one who pulled in Kaladin and he's the one who helped bring the bodies over with Teft, and he keeps showing that he's actually willing to help and believes in Kaladin, but the whole time he's expressing doubts, and it's almost like he's seeking reassurance. Yes. This is like, all these things you did, like, we're not going to bring the bodies back, so what are we doing? But I don't think he's saying it because he doesn't believe in it. I think, he wants an answer. Mm-hmm. He wants to believe.
Yeah, Rock is the homie right from the get-go. He's the man.
Yeah. And did you like this little map we got of the war camps?
I remember seeing the oaths or the let me open up my book.
The codes.
Yeah, the
code show.
Yeah, it was the codes. Yeah.
I'm gonna open my extensive art folders. I've got the oh my god, my computer's just full of Cosmere art and Stormlight art and maps. I'm going to pull up this map here because there was a fun little detail. Wherever it was. Where are these camps, guys? All right, here we go. The Alethi war camps. And it's a map of the Alethi war camps by the painter Vandonas, who visited the war camps once and painted perhaps an idealized representation of them. And yeah, it is quite idealized because they're totally, I don't know, it's just all too symmetrical and perfect. But
very neat.
Yeah, a cool detail that Isaac Stewart, who does the maps here, there's like a river nearby, and it's named Vandonas as well. So this bloody artist is like, I will name the river after me. Well.
How vain!
Of course, yeah. Honestly, yeah. The mighty river Vandonas. Observe that Stormwood is towards the bottom. But yeah, I love these little touches, even with the maps in the included text. I love it's all in world.
So, yeah, I saw it there, and I didn't look at it too much because I usually look at the illustration if there is one right before like whatever chapter we were reading. So I did look at the codes, and I just love the presentation of the topography of the codes that is included in the book as well. It has like the little military guy on there as well.
Where is that in yours? Because I'm reading on it's right now. I've got the ebook here. I don't have that there in my book. Where is that for you?
It's right before chapter 16, Cocoons. The flashback. It's right there.
And wow, it's not for whatever reason. It's not in my ebook copy. I mean, I don't have the hard copy with me because I'm moving.
All right, off.
How bloody dare they? They should know that the Way of Kings should be on my person at all times. All right, I'm gonna pull up the codes picture because I'm fairly sure if it's the one I'm remembering, there is a little detail there that I want to talk about. How do I find this? Okay.
It'd be a good to search for the Alethi codes Way of Kings.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I'm pulling it up. Okay, yes, it does have the thing I'm thinking about. So up the top, right, we're seeing a lot of people with swords doing cool stuff, right?
Yes.
On the top left, see that clap thing? How he's catching the...
Yeah.
That happens later. I'm trying to remember who does that. I'm pretty sure it's Dalinar or Adolin. It's when they're like protecting Elokar from Zeth.
Yeah, that already happened. That happened in our last episode. Dalinar caught. Remember, Dalinar caught. He caught the Chasm Fiend's big claw that came down. That's what.
Yeah. No, but there is a scene later that he catches. They do this clap motion to a shard blade, which is sick, right? So that tells you straight away these things happen have happened or are techniques on Roshar, right? Confirmed. Then you look at the top right and you see this dude like yoga posing, levitating. So what is that? What is that?
That is, he's literally has his legs crossed, hands up.
Yeah.
And the guy, it looks like the guy's sword just missed possibly underneath.
Yeah. What is that about, bro?
Interesting.
That is some unseen technique that we're going to see. Yeah. He's just like, I am too developed for you. I am the sixth ideal. I don't know, but I'm like, okay, when's that coming?
All right, so we're gonna get people floating in yoga poses. That's definitely happening at some point.
Yeah, man. Where's the monk radiance? The pacifists that just dodge everything.
Do we have any dual wielders in Stormlight yet?
Ooh,
because there's a dual wielding guy right in the middle at the bottom.
Oh wait! Oh yeah.
We're gonna get somebody that has dual wielding shard blades. Is that going to happen?
See that? What's interesting about this? Like the medieval aesthetic. So you get an idea of like the period of time this was created, the codes. Yeah. So somewhere between like the early Radiance and the Bronze Age to now. I don't know. Are we dealing with shard blades in these pictures? That's my question. Are they even shard blades? No,
they're not shard blades. Shard blades would be much larger.
Yeah, but what about? So what's with the guy levitating? Someone please explain.
I don't know. I really don't know. It's wild. Maybe he's a herald. I'm gonna say it. He's a herald.
Did we spot a herald?
Kalak is right here.
Oh, dude, look at that! Look at that clean goatee as well. These
And
guys
for
got,
folks who are wondering what we're looking at, if you're on the audio, if you type in Alethi Codes Way of Kings and click on images on Google, you'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah, or just bust open your copy, because surely, as a listener of Lost in Roshar, you've got it right there.
You better.
Yeah, but that's I'm glad you pointed that out, because that levitating dude's been wrecking my brain. I've been wrecking my brain about that guy for years. Like, what's he doing? Oh man, another episode down, I think, bro.
Yeah, I think these are my favorite couple of chapters actually that we've covered. I enjoyed very much reading both of them, and I think that they've been my favorite to talk about thus far. I mean, a lot of the early stuff is really cool too because of the context we have now. So there's been some great ones, but I think as a unit, these two together are probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lock myself in, but I'm tending to agree with you right now. I think they played off each other well in our podcast format. They were a great two to examine together, with the flashback with Tien to now saving the bridgeman. But next week, the strap returns.
No.
Sadly, the strap saga returns, but we jump into Dalinar's first vision. So get your VR goggles ready, people. We're diving right in. But as always, thank you so much for joining us again on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next week to dive into those chapters 18 and 19.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. It helps us out tremendously. And if you have feedback, questions, theories, just please spam read us at lostandroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar, and remember to keep that safe hand covered.